What's up?
What's up?
Hello, hello.
That was a nice throwback to a scary movie.
Was it?
What's up?
What's up? No. We're not starting that.
No, we're not.
Like 500 people just tuned out. Like potential people that we just lost. Okay. How you guys been?
We've been good.
Been good, man. Been good.
Good.
Busy week.
Busy. How are things on the front of the Instagrams and the social media and everything else? I know you have been talking about the annoyance of WhatsApp groups.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Well, not on Instagram, but like to everyone I meet, basically. I just annoy them for like half an hour on WhatsApp groups. Look, it's not so much with the, with your friends, it's fine. It's the family groups that really bother me.
Yeah.
I can't stand them, man.
My wife has that. She has like a dedicated family group where they text everything and everybody has to be a part of it and everybody's included. Yeah. And I was invited to be a part of it. I just genuinely just went, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
What is WhatsApp?
I'm not on my phone.
I still use MSN.
I don't know what
I don't know how you're dodging all these groups, man. Seriously. Like as an Arab, I've never met an Arab who's not in a family group.
I have every other kind of group, social group, geek group, D&D group. Every comedy group, improv group, every other group I have. Some of them I'm managing. Sometimes I'm not even a part of it really. And there's one that's just
Banter Buddies group.
Yes, but that's like the three of us. So.
Yeah,
it's barely a group.
It's company. The three is company. You count as two, Metruk.
I do.
I made a plus size joke.
Plus size joke.
That was
it's okay. It's at my expense.
Yeah.
It's okay, Khalid.
It's okay.
Just
it's like having that black friend, you know. It's like I have the right to sort
but
of.
But then I was also at his weight, so I feel like I get to.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I feel like the only way to get fat shaming back is for everybody to be fat and then lose the weight, and then
just
see. That's the thing.
Close your lights tonight.
How come there isn't the opposite of that? Why isn't there like skinny shaming? You know, I feel weird when people say, "Oh, you're too skinny."
Anorexia.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like it's as offensive.
Do you feel ashamed? Do you feel ashamed?
I mean, I don't really give a shit that much, but I know people who are like, "Oh, I'm so skinny, I don't know what to do about it." It is annoying because I know, well, especially with me as well. It's difficult. It's nearly impossible to put on weight. I literally can't.
Yeah,
it's
unless I get supplements or something.
It's more with girls, OJ. You know, girls, like she could be sporting like a banging figure and whatever, and she'd be like, "Oh my god, I feel so fat." Like, no, you're not. Like,
you're
like,
not.
Do you even know what being fat is?
But those anorexic types, their heads are fat, man. That weirds me out. Like their heads are like aliens. You can tell they have a problem because
we're wrecked with the aliens.
Oh my god!
You're right. He was right.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Is right.
Unbelievable.
You know what?
It's the head right there.
It's right there. Yeah.
It's the whole thing.
With anorexia, I went on this website one time about showing you like diets for anorexia and whatever. And there's a diet called the rainbow diet.
Okay, what is
where like
this?
every day you'd eat like a different colored fruit. Like a day would
with
be
a
an
gay
apple
friend
and orange.
No.
Probably LGBT friendly as well. Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd eat like, I don't know, about 400 calories a day. Like, I think 400 was too much. Like, that's when they're cheating. You know what I mean?
How is 400 even plausible? That's a grape.
What's
how much of grapes?
What's disturbing? What's disturbing is that they don't ban these websites.
Yeah.
They don't.
Why would they ban them? Why are you being censorious?
Because
it's the word of the day, censorious.
Sounds like a Greek god.
Because
censorious.
Because it's preaching something that's really harmful to you.
Yeah.
Like, would you preach anorexia to someone?
I don't know, man. They're doing this thing nowadays with. No, I wouldn't. But I wouldn't. It's a diet, so there's crazy ones out there anyway. But what are you going to do? You're going to say people don't be stupid? It's Darwinian. If they're going to die, let them. No. I didn't say that.
You gotta be careful.
I didn't say that.
Give a little rewind there.
And I meant that they're if they're gonna eat whatever they're gonna eat that makes them feel like they're healthy or makes them feel like they're natural, whatever it is. Be a vegan, be whatever you want to be. Eat a beaver for all I care. But no, I'm not gonna stop people. Let them eat what they want to eat.
Yeah, but it's harmful though. It's harmful.
How's it like?
No, there are so many things that are
on the
harmful.
opposite end of the spectrum as well. Like there's a restaurant in the States, appropriately named Heart Attack Grill. I don't know if you heard about it.
Oh, Awar Galb?
Awar Galb, yeah. Like the
Is
guy,
it about heartbreak and
the guy, man, the way he advertises his restaurant is so smart. He was like, "This will kill you."
this will kill you?
Oh, yeah, I heard about it.
Freedom.
I saw it.
And he opened a restaurant in like the middle of Las Vegas, and people go there. And I think if you're above like 360 pounds, you
You're
get to
not
eat
allowed
for
to
free.
go. Oh, okay.
You get to eat for free.
Yeah.
I thought it was like you're not allowed to go in. You're too skinny.
And
They measure you.
It's like, you know, like with the rides, like you have to be this tall to ride.
Yeah,
but they have it on width. It's like you have to be this thick, mother.
And they just like they cook everything in lard, and it's bacon, and it's
God.
greasy, and it's just, and people keep going.
Yeah.
You know, like why?
Because they want to feel like they get to do whatever the they want to do.
Yes.
Matruk, let them do it.
Okay, fine, Khalid.
I want people to let me do my stuff.
There's a
So
market for everything.
I'm just saying.
you're being judgmental, Matruk. You're being
like
very
the great Mortal Technique once said, "There's a market for everything, man. There's a market for pet psychologists."
We started talking about WhatsApp groups.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
How did we get to anorexia?
I have no idea actually, but
Going back to
yeah.
WhatsApp groups. There's always a family group.
So what does that feel like for you guys?
It's mixed feelings really, because within the same family you'd have 3-4 different
Yes.
family groups.
Yes.
Which is even more annoying. Like, for example, I'd have one with my parents and my siblings, so that's one, and then there's like a bigger one with my mom's side of the family, and there's a bigger one and there's another one with my dad's side, and then on my mom's side there's another one which is like inclusive.
You know, my dad, God bless him, he reads a lot about like medical conditions and like ways of dealing with Ramadan and
So
yada yada, all that.
constantly.
And he just like on every group, like you get the same video and you get the same article.
Yeah. And again, that's another thing where you literally see the same content in every single group, even the ones that are not related. But if it's a family group, you find the same content.
And oh god, I lost my train of thought. And the Sabah al Khair, good morning messages.
What?
Those gotta go.
I don't know what that is.
Man,
I have.
those-
They already peaked though.
No, I don't.
I don't get those anymore. They peaked. I think. Yeah, man, one of my uncles used to do that every single, not only in the morning, but there was a point where even in the afternoon, and he put it like a hilal or like it's not Ramadan.
Man, I never got that. Like to me, I'm really like some people are like I'm thankful I have family. I'm thankful. I was like I do. I'm thankful I have family. They're amazing family, in-laws as well, and other people. And maybe from my my own side of the family, I'm not in touch with people that are related to me, and I'm pretty like on my own, right? Floating out into the universe. But I don't feel the need to say, well, social media means obligation for everything. I already feel like uncomfortable with the fact just visiting my wife's side of the family that there's so many days of the week they meet at different times. So from her mother's side they meet at a different day, and her father's side they meet at a different day, and then there's them, and then there's the cousins, and there's everything else. And I'm like, Jesus, like, well, people used to die. That's the idea. People used to die. They're not meant to be that many people.
I didn't expect that bit to go.
I'm sorry. Exactly. It's true. Like, you have the reason why you had 7 kids is because 5 of them would die, and that's not conducive to today's social media. If you have to keep in touch with every single family member, and it's kind of it's encouraged in religion and everything else, it's just salat al-raham, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, and you feel bad about it, and I do. But it's like, do I have to also listen to the empty conversations on a WhatsApp group?
Exactly.
And all the voice notes that float around. يا جماعة الخير احضروا الشارع في صرصور.
For people that don't speak Arabic, it's just like they make announcements for every little thing. I've heard this from friends of mine as well. It's just like, oh, careful, there's a checkpoint here, and he just made the joke about like, oh, careful, there's a cockroach.
It's good for traffic updates, though.
But
also by the time you get it,
theories. That's the other thing. It's just complete crap. Like somebody will spread.
Most of it is crap, honestly.
Yeah, but they spread rumor that isn't true. They'll be like, oh, the one that pisses me off the most is like when they come up with fake viruses. And they're like, oh, by the way, this virus is going around that if you download the latest Calvin Harris song.
Or this number. Like I've gotten like 1 million messages on my family group regarding this number. Don't pick up if it calls you. Like, If I get a number from like Zimbabwe or Estonia, I'm not gonna pick up.
Yeah,
it's okay. I'm not gonna pick up. Seriously,
but
you don't need to alert me.
But see, I'd go against that completely. I'd pick up just for the heck of it, you know. Like I want, like I'm not stupid. I know not some guy from Zimbabwe is not gonna put a magical spell on me or something. It's like he's gonna curse you for the rest of your life.
No, man.
The mythical Nigerian prince.
And here it's the Zanjibari prince. the ones that are just hanging out in Oman. Man, I've ran into this issue when I was in Oman recently, and I was really surprised about the one place that's very heritage is primus. It's the whole thing about the country that's staying back and tradition and not moving too forward into the future. In one sense, the conservatism keeps the country pristine the way it's meant to move forward, but gradually and slowly. But then there's this side of it that really confuses me. So, for example, like I go there. And the whole time I'm there, people refuse to talk to me in Arabic. And I'm
really?
Like especially at the hotel and other places. I'm like, why aren't you? And they dressed up, in the whole thing, and the garb with that head thing. Muddy Arabi راح. The language just
let's go to Omani Hamdaniya.
Yeah, okay, there we go. So they're dressed up in that, and I'm speaking to them in Arabic, and they refuse to talk to me. They're like in English the whole time. And
why is that?
I don't know. I got pissed off. Well, I do know why, but now I was telling you at the time I got pissed off, and I thought it was like this thing that they did whenever they think you're a chicken nugget or like you don't speak Arabic. Yeah. And I was like, just talk to me, dude. And I asked my wife's cousin, and he said, "Oh no, there's Zanjibaris. They don't speak Arabic."
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
In Oman, a lot of people speak like Swahili.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And when you approach Oman, I mean it's they're part of the GCC and whatever, so it's your natural instinct to start a conversation with them in Arabic.
Especially because that's their thing. They're traditional, right? So you'd expect everybody to be an Arabic speaker, but they're not. It was really weird.
Interesting.
Like I was once with a friend of mine, and he was talking to his other friend who's Omani.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time he was Omani, and they were talking in English and whatever. And then he told me, "Oh yeah, this guy, he's Omani." I'm like, "What?" Like I don't interact a lot with Omanis generally because they're kind of a rare breed in Bahrain.
Are they though? I think they just hang out in their own groups.
You don't see as much Omanis as you see.
Not as much as,
for example,
Kuwaitis,
Saudis, and
they built this country though. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah, Omanis were here way before the Yemenis and built like a lot of the old roads and all the infrastructure. And
I mean, from what I heard, Omanis are generally really nice people.
They're the nicest people.
Yeah,
and they're multicultural. A lot of like different. They used to have an empire, man.
Really?
Yeah, it makes sense why they have a lot of influence in Kenya.
Yeah,
and if you notice, if you've ever met Kenyans, their attire, like their traditional clothes, are very similar to Omani.
Yeah,
and right now Oman is on the map for Avicii's death.
Yes, I was. Oh man, I wish I got this information ready. I had my wife's cousin's like this guy, the guy you go to that every restaurant knows. Like I don't know if there's no clubs there. I think they are
underground,
whatever. But like he's the kind of guy that could get you into any club and knows every single person there. And he's taking me to restaurants and left and right. I bring up Avicii. I was like, the hotel. They were talking about it, and I didn't get the inside scoop, but apparently he just checked in and he just killed himself.
Shoot, man.
And they were really hush.
I want to make a really dark joke.
What? Like, why would you go to Oman to kill yourself?
No,
Could you imagine?
Everyone made that joke.
I was gonna say he checked in, then he checked out.
Oh gosh!
I told you it's gonna be dark. I told you it's gonna be dark.
Oh my god!
I told you it's gonna be dark. Give you a warning there,
man. I'll do you one. All right.
Can you imagine? It was such a surprise, though.
Yeah, nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it either. They kept it very quiet. Yeah. There was no real like press about it. There was nothing. I don't know if it's because he's a DJ and only a niche group. But you know what?
No, but he was huge.
Yeah,
he still is. Yeah. Like he's it's the prime of his.
And his
career. It was 28 or something when he. Yeah.
You know what's more fucked up is that he came to Oman, and I don't know if it's just coming to Oman that threw him off the edge. I don't know if that was something about Amon.
Probably saw some really bizarre shit there.
I think the first joke that came out of that
was
the magic, like the dark magic.
Oh yeah.
It's like saddle.
Yeah, for people that don't know this, that are from other parts of the world, in Gulf like humor, the same way like the Brits make fun of the French and the French make fun of the Brits, and then in our humor, it's like the Omanis are the sorcerers. They're the land of magic and jinn and everywhere else, and the people. There's all this like talk about cops not even going into some villages. They would never touch in it because it's like the villages are just all dark magic and
flying carpets and whatnot.
Yeah, so we make fun of him for that. But yeah, what I was gonna say was the more fucked up thing is that right after he dies, he was gonna do a performance there in Amman, right? And I'm not sure if he was contractually obligated to do it or not. But man, the hotel that he was staying at threw like a party in his name, and I was going, man, that is up.
That is
up. Because like for the fan, you're like, oh yeah, I want to say farewell to Avicii, and my wife's cousin said, oh, it's sold out. They had to turn away people and stuff like that. And I was like, man, can you imagine that boardroom? Insane, they were like, cha-ching.
It's the way the thing. Like when you think about it, it just shows you how much. Of a cultist culture that is especially this party culture, like it almost seems like you're worshipping this sort of icon, there, and the fact that he's not there anymore and they're still throwing this party.
It was almost too soon in a way, because like the fans are going to show up as a farewell, but it's also like, dude, he died under it's not a normal accident, it was a suicide. So it's not appropriate for the fact that you're like just I want to be the fly on the wall in that conference room meeting where some guys go, dude, we really have to take advantage of this. This is like, we have to turn this around. We already spent the freaking money on this.
Like, dude, money.
You know what they say, man? Marketers, man, they don't care.
They don't have a soul.
Just advertising and marketing.
I know a few of them. I don't know if they don't have a soul, but I can see there's this opportunistic like glint in their eye.
Yeah, whoever greenlit that.
Actually, the thing about Avicii died, and there was another person who died that Avicii kind of overshadowed, for lack of a better term. Minimi.
Well, wasn't that a while back?
I think he died after Avicii.
Really?
I'm not sure.
No, I think it was before.
You want to fact check this?
Fact check that. I think that.
OJ?
I think you're confusing your little people, maybe with somebody else. I don't know.
Minimi.
Oh no, he's right. He died after. Yeah, I just remember.
Really? I don't know why I was under the impression he died way back.
No,
I can't remember his name though.
It was really recent. Miskeen,
Miskeen, but you can't even remember his name. What was his name?
I'm sorry. Everyone knows him as Mini-Me.
Yeah,
come on.
It's true. But I don't. Do you like everybody likes to go and kind of feel sorry for a celebrity dying, right? Whenever a celebrity dies, everybody goes on, like that we loved him. He was Miskeen. He was this. But what pisses me off, I don't stop people begrudgingly from doing that, but I feel weird about doing that. I don't like jumping on board and saying, yeah, I loved him, and write posts about him on Facebook like he changed my life. Because up till that moment, we didn't give a shit what he was doing.
Exactly.
Like, he was off the map. Nobody was asking about him. Nobody was saying anything. Like, you can pick any of these celebrities that have died that were a part of our childhood. Yeah. And I bet you most of them had no attention whatsoever until death.
Absolutely,
I think the person that really sort of impacted a lot of people was Chester Bennington, Linkin Park.
Oh yeah, that was
because a lot of Bahrainis, a lot of Khalijis,
a lot of them grew up on that.
We grew up on that.
Yeah. I mean, I usually don't see the thing about, especially a celebrity dying, is even if you. Even if you have this connection with them, it's still like the kind of distance that you
detached,
have. Yeah. It's like you do feel. I'm not saying you don't feel bad, but it's not like you don't feel that emotional.
Yeah.
But I think the only one that I really felt was Chester Bennington because of the kind of childhood nostalgia that I have.
You had a
for
direct connection.
Yeah. It's like I remember that the first band I ever listened to was Linkin Park, and I always, I was.
But that's the thing. Do people that I don't like? I had a comic I really loved, Patrice O'Neill, the stand-up comedian. I don't know if you guys know him, but he was to me like my favorite black comic, and he was really like at the top of his game when he died. And the way this other stand-ups kind of gathered around, started talking about Patrice, the fact that he was like very a counter, like the machine of Hollywood and everything else, and he could have been the best of the best today if it wasn't for that fact, and the fact that he was kind of like pushing away from going through the system. You would have liked him. He's a contrarian. He hates the system. He hates the grinder and everything else. You would have fucking left him.
Oh yeah, mad out of my own heart. Seriously,
damn.
So yeah, when he died, I felt like it was a very genuine kind of reach out. Like I paid for his album Elephant in the Room because it was genuinely kind of like the comedians were genuinely like, when they went into the room, I think it was even Opie Anthony, a bunch of other shows, and they just started talking everything about it. They started talking shit about him. They started remembering the amazing things about him, the funniest parts, the most difficult parts, and then they talked about his family and what happened with his with that album and everything else, and it just sold like crazy because they really talked about the person, instead of just the memory of what he caught, like he's amazing, he's like so I feel like that would be a benefit to people, like.
And a lot of people start becoming fans of the person after they die.
Yeah, that pisses you off.
Like, I hate that.
You know, like
so much.
Fucking hell, man! Like
can't stand
when
that.
Michael Jackson died.
Yeah.
Everybody started becoming a fan of Michael Jackson,
especially Bahrain's because
he
wanted a house here.
But that's true. Yeah, that was weird. For most people that wouldn't know this, Michael did live in Bahrain for a while. It was quite weird.
Very, very weird. Just to sorry to stop you.
The
there
information, you have it.
Wow, this is interesting. Avicii died April 20th.
Yeah, that's last month, right? Yeah.
The Minime's actual name is Vern Troyer.
Yes.
He died next day.
Oh,
21.
Wow.
You're right about him overshadowing. Next day, man, 21.
You should have seen the look Matruk gave me. Like,
but yeah, you're right. Like, there's this sort of. It's almost. I think it's just people getting dragged into this culture of, this person, like people are talking about, this person died, I feel bad, and they're just everyone around them are just, they're just retweets, and that's the retweet culture, man.
But OJ, don't you think that, like, some celebrities, let's talk in the realm of comedy, okay? A lot of comedians died prematurely, and when you watch their material, like, I'm a big fan of Bill Hicks.
We already said he didn't die.
Oh, okay,
we already established Alex Jones is Bill Hicks.
Okay.
So,
in a parallel universe where Bill Hicks actually died, you could just, you just wish that he had one last show in the present day. Like, what would he say? That's sad when a celebrity or an actor or a comedian or whatever dies and they haven't reached their full potential.
But I don't feel like Hicks would actually make it today. I don't.
You don't think so?
I think his comedy is very niche for that time period, and like there's a lot of people that you show Hicks to now, and who's the other guy as well? I forgot his name. Give me comics from that time.
Eddie Griffin?
No,
he wasn't. Yeah,
George Carlin.
No, Carlin maybe he still stands tall, but I feel like Hicks specifically and the other guy I'm trying to think of, their comedy is already kind of like become part of the culture, part of the mainstream vibe of how comedians talk anyway.
Yeah.
So anybody that's new that's listening to them will be like, oh, what's so special about this?
I think the person that really sort of reflects Bill, funny enough, he is also called Bill Burr.
Yeah.
In a sense where he's very angry. He's very sort of just of you. I'm going to complain about this. I'm going to complain about that, and you're going to like it.
But Bill also has this weird side of him that's not Bill Burr. Doesn't have this. He has this side of him where he's very he's a full character. You don't feel like it's fake. You feel like it's him, and it's 3-dimensional where he kind of also shows his sensitive side.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite bits is about him repressing like the urge to call a puppy cute, and it's like years of shaming from his friends. Where it's like, "What are you, gay?"
It's so good. There's a conversation. I think you might have seen that. It's when they're sitting at a round table, and it's him and a bunch of other comedians. I can't remember who it was. I think
I know the one you're talking about.
Russell Peters was there as well.
Yeah. Russell.
Others. And they were talking about that same issue about saying that word, like saying something is gay, and how how it's sensitive right now because
they were talking about the same thing Louis was saying about being a faggot. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for using the term.
Exactly.
They were
and
talking
they dissect it, like they just sit down and then they talk about how different in terms of the context it is, and it's pure joy just to listen to that.
Because the argument is that when they used to say it, they didn't associate it with being gay at all. They were associating it with just if you're just being a pussy, if you're being like weird.
And I completely understood that because that's exactly how we used to act when we were in school. You know, when he says, he's a faggot. You know, like when you say that, it's like I don't actually mean.
It's very contextual.
Yeah.
You know why I like Bill Burr? Because Bill Burr reminds me of every Bahraini uncle.
What?
Ever.
Why?
Because Bill Burr just sits there and he complains and he's loud and he's brash and he kind of forces his opinions on you. Like he just
he gives good reason to think so. But Bahraini uncles don't do that. That's the problem.
He's fleshed out. That's what I mean by like he's three-dimensional. You can see all these sides to him.
Like you can tell that he's thoroughly thinking about all of this stuff. Like he like the thing with the puppies. Like I understand that. Like I feel like I need to have this masculine side of me.
There's
but there's this part of him.
Years of psychological repression. It's like, what are you, a fag or something? What are you doing?
But you know something. Bahrainis are notorious for being complainers. I myself am a huge complainer.
It just whines like crazy. You should hear him right after the podcast.
Hence why I'm a comedian. The thing with Bahrain is interacting with especially older people in Bahrain. It's a very good way to sort of get the anger, get in the same frequency with them, because. And they do it in a really, really sort of comedic way.
Really?
Yeah.
I never felt like the anger was genuine in Bahrain. People are too nice.
Then you haven't met...
Like Kuwaitis, I see the anger when they're like... But the Bahrainis, it's like only when it's family on family, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, but most of it happens in closed doors.
Yeah.
Like there's more complaints.
Or coffee shops.
Houses,
traditional coffee shops.
Oh, does that happen there?
Oh.
Yeah.
There's a coffee shop in Bab al-Bahrain.
This is the one you said you go and get your material.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You heard him talking about that.
The one with the blue chairs?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like a bunch of like really old, like... retired geriatrics, like just sitting down there the whole day and talking about like the weirdest things, talking about all their achievements back in the day and whatever, and it's just
every one of like when you sit down and just listen to these stories, every single one of these people either owned like a couple of buildings somewhere in Monroe, and like some guy owned a restaurant at some point, and some guy traveled to and probably half of it was bullshit. Like it's just bullshit or bullshit.
Some of them are just so good at inventing bullshit that people just let them talk.
Yeah.
It's like I used to have a pigeon that walked like I don't know this place you're talking about. We used to have a guy that my father's like majlis, and he'd have a tent and invite people over. And there's this guy who would come in, and every time he'd say some long ass story that is just nonsensical, like a pigeon he left in Muharraq, and they tied it up, and it used to live in their place in Rafah, and then it just started walking back home because it couldn't fly.
And it gets more obscure when you get to these small like villages in Bahrain. Let me tell you a story. I had this there's this guy who came into my dad's a dentist, and some weird people come in sometimes, and he was talking. Some dude came in one day, and he's a very old guy, shui, like a little, not too. He's a bit spacey. Okay. Something is off about him, and like my dad's telling me the story. Like the guy comes in, he's like a regular customer. He comes in, and and my dad fixes him up, and he sits down. He tells him all these stories, like, I own this a couple of buildings somewhere in Manama, and I have this and that. And then I think a couple of months later, another guy came in, and I think he was a friend of that guy or something. And he was telling him about, I think that guy already passed away apparently. And he was telling him
a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, no, funny enough. And he's sitting down with my dad. My dad's asking him about him, and he's like, "Oh, he just passed away." Was it the guy who passed away? Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, let's assume he did it. Let's just maybe I'm talking about someone else. Okay, let's just assume he did it. It doesn't really matter in the context of the story. But he was telling him about, how's this? My dad's asking the other dude, how's the guy? How's he doing? And like, how is his business? And then the guy looks weird at him. He's like, by the way, that guy's not. He's a bit crazy. He doesn't own any of that stuff. He's like, all of you. exist.
And he let it happen. Yeah, they don't care.
He created an entire universe in his head, and he's just imagining all of this stuff. And it's not even real.
There's a culture of bullshit in Bahrain, especially amongst like the older guys.
I could totally see you doing that at 70. I
swear
to God,
exactly.
I could
Like,
see you doing that.
picture it like I'm just sitting down in some coffee shop with like a bunch of older people and just talking about like, oh yeah, man, I used to
Back
open,
in my day.
I used to open for the biggest comedian ever.
Go f*** yourself.
Which comedian?
Abdullah Jalal.
Sorry, Jalal. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
But one time,
don't listen to that.
One time I was at this coffee shop and there was this guy like totally convincing everyone that every day he wakes up and he memorizes the whole newspaper.
What?
Seriously.
Wow. That's a very interesting talent.
The most random like statement I've ever heard. أنا كل يوم أقوم الصبح وأحفظ الجريدة. Like,
what's the point of that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is he trying to piece the Da Vinci Code together?
Exactly. It's this culture of we live in.
I feel like if you were at that age and you started doing that, I feel like at some point you're just doing it to see what you can get away with. You've got nothing to lose. Why wouldn't you do it?
I always thought when I get to that age, it's the best point you can be. You can just do anything you want.
On the floor.
Your excuse is I'm just old. I can do whatever.
I don't know what's happening. Look at me, I'm confused. And we don't have nursing homes here. As long as I don't run a business, nobody's gonna get it. You know, they're freaking families here, man. With parents that are like CEOs and stuff, and they put them in the positions of power, and they're like they feel bad about relieving them from it. Mm-hmm. But the guys are obviously crazy.
Oh yeah,
I mean they're senile as and they still go to the boardroom meetings, and everybody nods and pretends like he's okay.
See from all the bad decisions that they're making.
Some guy, like some poor Indian, has to like run through a 15-minute presentation that just is not being heard at all. He's like, well, now the quarter results are coming in from this field, and we think we can expand into a better business. I think we should buy pigeons. What? Yes,
Abdullah, buy him pigeons, please.
Please buy him pigeons. I think we should buy more pigeons.
The other day I went to this bird shop in Jidali.
Yeah.
And it was so cruel, man. Like, it made me sad. It made me sad. Like,
I didn't expect
How did we get there? Sensitive
pigeons,
you feel bad for pigeons. You know what's even sadder?
What are you, faggot?
What are you, gay? No, you want to see sad if you feel bad for pigeons and stuff, man. I did a show, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but I know some people will know who he is. I opened like a small an MC bit for like the air show and stuff, and there was a magician there, and it's not the one people are thinking of. I know my friends are thinking about the guy. It's not Nabil. Okay,
I was just about to say.
It's not. It's a different magician. Nabil is an amazing magician. Check him up.
He's pretty cool, actually.
He's pretty cool. He does a lot of sleight of hand stuff, and he's pretty chill. He doesn't do anything with animals, so he's pretty cool. But the other guy that was there, the other magician, was doing animal-based tricks, like freaking pulling out pigeons out of cups and stuff like that, and out of like eggs turning. And I could see the van he had in the back of the stage, like it's a huge fucking stage,
a pen shop inside.
Dude, literally like a van that screamed out, "I should have a mattress in the back," and somebody's like banging on the fucking windows. That is how skeevy this van looked. And he had like a vest and everything, and he was sweating under the vest, and he could see like he pulled out this board, man, with like this trunk, and inside the trunk and the board is just pigeons and other animals that just looked like they were just screaming for help. Do you know that look you see with like people in a horror movie? And they're like, help me! He's gonna turn me into a centipede. That's the image I had of some of these freaking birds, man. They were just tied up. Their legs are just caught in pigeon wire and all this other shit. And just he leaves them down, and the way he treats them every time he does a tada trick and then stuffs them back in.
How many pigeons must he have in his sleeve?
Dude, he said he had a guy. A guy that just gets him pigeons.
I have a pigeon
shop in Japan, man.
I got a pigeon guy. Like, I never heard anyone say that. Imagine you have to say, I have a pigeon guy.
He did. Because I was asking him because he's trying to have a conversation with me, and I'm asking him with like a very like straight, like trying to be a professional face, because people don't have the same kind of value that me and Matruk or anybody in this room would have towards animal cruelty. People that are cruel,
Exactly.
But they do have like a weird kind of detachment from it.
Yeah.
So he puts on this face of the performer when he's on stage doing it for kids, and he's like, "Oh, yeah,
game face, bro, game face."
And then the second he's in the back, like right behind the stage, he's just like stuffing the pigeons. Like,
it's just like,
get in there.
It's just like those clowns that you see in movies, like in front of the kids, like and then in the back he goes and smokes a cigarette.
He also.
But man,
I await the day where pigeons would get their get back their rights and would actually pull him out of a tree or something.
# pigeon rights.
Pigeons don't have a lot of rights in the Middle East. They get eaten here, man.
Hey, hamam.
Yeah, people eat them here.
I don't know if people around the world know this, but there's a taste for pigeon
Hey,
here.
It's not just us; it's the French as well.
Do they?
Yeah.
Do the French like
Yeah,
pigeons?
the French eat
pigeons.
weird.
I thought they liked like that special weird bird that they ate. Like,
One of the classic French dishes is pigeons with peas.
is it?
Mm.
Yeah.
What's that one where you have to eat it under the napkin or I can't remember what it's called. There's this specific
It's like what again, a cob?
Yeah, no, seriously. There's this specific like a dish that they make with a very specific kind of bird, and I can't remember the name of it. It's a French name, obviously.
Do you have to hide it? Is it that?
You have to when you eat it, you have to like eat it underneath,
Get under the blanket
because you don't want God to see the sin you're committing right now. It's
man.
because it has to be like a baby chick or something. I don't know.
Well,
what
at least they're eating with class, you know. It's not
Yeah.
like the beer in front of you. Like they're just 15 people with bare hands just eating away on.
Actually, now that I remember, I think I'm remembering this from an episode of American Dad. So I have no idea if this is actually real or not. So somebody find out. Maybe it is real. Maybe it's not.
Speaking of things that I barely remember, there was this bit that I can't for the love of God, I can't remember who said it, and I am almost suspecting that I may have heard it in a dream of mine, and I just want to ask you guys if you've heard this before. Maybe one of you guys said it. It was a thing about how flies are so disrespectful now that they...
What?
I don't know who said this. Maybe I dreamt. I don't know.
This is very
Disrespectful
familiar.
flies?
I heard it
very
somewhere. I'm
familiar.
sure it was I think it was a comedian talking about how even flies are so disrespectful to you right now. Like they would just fly on you and they wouldn't give like even if you just try to like they don't give you their come back. Who said that? I can't remember.
I mean, a lot of flies are going like all kamikaze on you these days.
Yeah.
Like I'd be like sitting minding my own business, and this fly just comes and
just
bangs my
smacks
face.
you on the face.
You know what I don't understand? It's like when parents, like especially my dad, whenever we go out to the desert, the parents would be like the desert flies are huge as
The horse flies.
The horse fly, yeah. They just come out and then they'd be like, "Oh no, I'm brief. He's clean. Don't worry, he's clean." It's like it's not because he's dirty. He's annoying as fuck, and he's a huge little fly,
you
man.
know something?
I don't want it swatting my face.
Flies are actually do a great service for humans. There was
the maggot thing
about patience.
No. There's a story. I don't know if it's true or not. Again, it was on a WhatsApp group, but
it's definitely true.
But I'll say it anyways.
Yeah.
There's this one town in China that decided to to kill all the flies. Like, can you imagine the process of killing every fly in that town?
That's not even possible.
I don't know.
Is that,
Okay,
yeah,
I don't know, man.
Is that even?
This is
like
definitely one of the.
I don't know if it's
like
true.
when it's bullshit because every one of these weird stories is like it's China. Like it always is somewhere weird in China because
the Chinese can come up with something
yes,
like
they
that.
can. But even the Chinese are going, "Fuck you, right? We're not. You can't kill flies. Okay, they're everywhere."
No, but apparently,
the most racist portrayal of it.
Somehow they killed all the flies.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of
they
people started getting a lot of diseases in that town.
Ah.
Yeah. So apparently these flies, they carry away disease.
They carry it away.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule that out. I'm a firm believer in the fact that if you had removed an entire species purposefully, I'm not talking spiritually here, but I'm guessing just in terms of the
Save
sort
the
of
trees, man.
just in terms of how life on Earth works,
Right.
removing an entire species must do something.
Must have an effect.
Like it must have an effect, you know,
Well,
even a minor effect.
Like the flies are not like eating away germs in the atmosphere, dude.
But I think they have something to. I read about that. And I think it has something to do with flowers or trees. The same way how if the bees died and then something's going to happen.
I don't think
to...
you could. You kill them off anyway. They lay eggs
exactly,
everywhere.
Exactly. That's
There's
the
eggs on you right now. Like the second you die, they just start popping up. Yeah, you have eggs on you right now.
Really?
Yeah. And they're like alien eggs.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Again.
It's 40 minutes in now with a second aliens reference.
Speaking of Alien, just since we're on that topic right now.
The movie? Or
the movie itself. I don't know if you've heard of... I've been dying to see a representation of this somewhere, but there was this unfinished... Yeah, it is basically an unmade Aliens film. It was supposed to be either the second or the third Alien. It was... They contracted this the very famous New Zealand director. His name is Vincent Ward,
right?
And he was supposed to make this amazing alien film, and it was supposed to be this metaphor for it was supposed to be this biblical story of what's her name, the girl from
Ripley.
Yes, like it was apparently she was supposed to fall down into this planet, and it was supposed to be this biblical story, and he had entire storyboards made for it.
And
was supposed to be this amazing,
and it never got made.
But it was just never got made. The concept was beautiful. You need to look this up.
Okay, I will. Just give me a name and I will, because there's so many like aliens related stories that are never released, or they're comic books, or they're audiobooks, or
but that
was a ton of them.
Yeah.
You're gonna kill me right now, but I've never watched Alien.
Nothing.
I haven't seen.
I have the DVDs. Khalid, I have the DVDs, and OJ, I have the DVDs.
Don't worry about it. I haven't seen the second one. Actually,
got around to watching it.
I don't feel like anybody really likes it these days. Whenever I've showed it to anyone, I've stopped showing it. Like it's not once have I gotten a positive.
I wouldn't be surprised because of how I don't know. It's a different type of horror film to show.
Yeah, but nobody gets that claustrophobia now. Yeah. Nobody gets the quality of that in the 70s. They don't understand what...
Everybody wants safe space nowadays.
Yeah. No, it's not even just that. It's they don't.
People want.
It doesn't scare them. It doesn't do anything. And I understand, especially in the first Alien movie, because the costume is not that scary. And there's that scene, especially if you watch it in Blu-ray. Oh my god, it's terrible because you can see there's that Dallas is just in the air ducts, right? And he's like, Ripley, I'm going to look for it. And Dallas has got his tracking device. And the best
is that Alien or Aliens?
Alien, right? The first Alien. And he's in the air ducts. He's trying to go after it, and they made the makeshift like flamethrower, even in the motion sensor. And he's going doot doot. As it comes through to catch him, he's trying to scurry away, and he doesn't know where it is, and everything else. In the Blu-ray version, you can see the alien in the darkness before he even comes out. So you just see this messed up looking costume, and then he just goes out in front of the camera and does jazz hands. The alien is just opening its hands.
But still, you gotta appreciate the amount of effort they put into making.
They don't get it because there's things like.
Honestly though, the scene where the alien pops out of the stomach,
I
mean, I haven't seen it again in a while, but that still gets me every time. It looks so good.
That still works. Yeah, that still works for people, even if they've never seen it before. That still kind of gets them, because the idea of it is what's scary.
Exactly,
right? Something growing inside you.
The physicality of the whole thing. You know,
I think it was Tom Savini that did the special effects on that.
Was it?
Yeah. But I think it was him. But the guy who did the artwork, so was him. It was a famous. Let me try his name.
But I'm going to bring this back to this one idea I really love about the first Alien movie, and especially like the idea that a lot of people they can't really appreciate it unless they know this aspect of it. Is that when people went to see that movie, to me that is the first feminine character, like a heroine that was believable for me. Like the first time I see a girl a woman that is being the hero of the story, that I feel like, yes, she's tough, she's managing to survive, and it doesn't feel like forced, or it's just this one-dimensional character that doesn't seem believable. And the reason it worked was because most people didn't realize the guy that was doing the Dallas, right? I forgot the actor's name. Look him up for me. And also John Hurt was in the movie. right? And Hurt he's a famous actor then, right? So he gets the alien exploding out of his chest. Nobody realized that Ripley was going to be the main star. Like now you see it and you're like, oh, Sigourney Weaver, she's the heroine. But at the time, the movie did a misdirect.
Okay.
They thought Dallas and Hurt were the main characters, the main actors of the story because they were the men, they were the tough guys, right?
His name was Tom Skerritt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. So that misdirection and then finding out that the actual heroine of the story is Ripley is something that you can't really see anymore. You can't appreciate it if you watch it for the first time.
And if you show it to people now, they'll tell you, well, yeah, you can say that, but then again, they showed her as masculine, so technically,
she's a man?
Yeah. So I've heard that argument before, and especially when I was in film school, there were entire books of how much misdirection there is in those types of films where they're supposed to be those femme fatales, but in the end they're still embodying those male characteristics.
That's like when we talked about Wesley Snipes not being a real black guy in Blade. That's the same argument, man.
Yeah.
But well, what about like the second movie in Aliens? You remember the Spanish chick Vasquez?
I haven't seen Aliens.
You've never seen Aliens?
I've seen the first Alien. I haven't seen Aliens.
That was like a character that the feminists loved at the time. Vasquez. She was like buff. She was like killer. Like she was the muscle in the whole movie. Like typically that's the jock, right?
Yeah, typically, yeah.
Anyway, let's get off this.
The other day I was reading about Rab al-Khali, the empty quarter.
The empty quarter in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
The unknown desert. Where the lost city of Iram could be.
That just fascinates me, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the amount of lore that's involved, that involves Rab al-Khali, the empty quarter. It was mentioned in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It's interesting. It goes back to your points where there's so much material.
And Khalid coming back to the first episode of Banter Buddies when we mentioned that in The Matrix, Rab al-Khali was their base for Machine City.
Yeah,
for the Matrix.
Yeah. I showed you guys it was confirmed. I can't. What was the name of the city? You lost it again. I forgot what it was called. I was like trying to get it last time as well.
Machine City, right? Machine 001
City 1. I don't know.
But see, that's the thing. Coming back to sci-fi and the GCC, I think we underutilize that location.
The whole empty quarter itself. Yeah, because every other desert is famous. Like in some movie or another, the Sahara, the Gobi Desert, all these other ones.
But with the mysticism involved with the empty quarter, I think we could really take advantage of that.
There's so much in the Middle East that you can take advantage. Absolutely.
Well, there's also like I said, when you brought about the Iram. Have you guys heard of that? The ancient city?
No. I think so.
It's in the Quran. It's like our Atlantis, basically.
Really?
Yeah. So the pillars of Iram, the lost city.
Oh yeah.
Was that in Uncharted?
Yes.
Uncharted,
exactly. And that is a whole mythology that a lot of people believe the city exists somewhere in the borders of like Oman and the Emirates in Saudi Arabia, somewhere in that desert, and that somewhere beneath the shifting sands of the empty quarter, entire civilizations were engulfed by sand. Because if you think about it, there's just nothing else there but sand. So you could have had a freaking civilization there. This one is dated in the Quran itself. There's like tons of it. It's called Iram of the Pillars. If somebody wants to look it up, it's like Iram either with an A-R-A-M. There's a lot of fascination about this and also in Pakistan for some reason. A lot of, I think, Pakistani archaeologists go into it.
We could make a killer movie, exploring themes like that.
You're right. There's so much lore in there, man.
And it would be really interesting because historically it's significant, religiously it's significant, and culturally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can make up those superhero stories. And the origin would be from that. Like he came out of the sands.
Well, that's the thing. Like if you look at geek culture and some of the video games out there, some of the old RPGs and stuff like that, there's a lot of people, like you said, in Uncharted, they mention it, in Diablo as well, and some other places.
Not to go too far, what's her name? Miss Marvel, was it?
Yeah.
Apparently she's
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel is supposed to be an Arab origin in the series. Was it her or was it?
No, I think you're thinking about the other one.
Who was it then? The one that was supposed to be Pakistani or something?
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about, but that's not Captain Marvel, was it?
Yeah, Captain Marvel is Brie Larson's playing Captain Marvel. She's white and she's blonde.
She's far from Pakistan.
Or Arab, for that matter.
Yeah, unless she's like very close to that Pashtun border with like some of those the blonde guys. Have you seen them, by the way?
Like Kashmir?
Is it Kashmir or Pashtun?
Yeah, Kashmir.
But you know the ones I'm talking about. Like there's some Afghanis and some Pakistanis that have the blonde hair and blue eyes.
Oh yeah, especially around the borders of Iran.
Yeah,
they're very much
like to a lot of to a lot of older Arab guys, there's perverted. Like they come to you and they'll be like, Ahmed, Niswan Kashmir, Ahla Niswan fi dunya. Like, women from Kashmir are the most beautiful women in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, don't you got tea to drink or bullshit to come up with?
It just gets closer to you, like, do you want to see those women?
But apparently that's true.
Yeah, but there's also the weird kind of fascination with that blonde, because they're darker skinned, but then they have blonde hair, blue eyes, and stuff like that.
Sorry, my bad. It was Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel, yeah.
Kamala Khan?
Yeah, Kamala Khan, yeah, that's the one.
I think with the fascination, it's a really unique blend of ethnicities.
It is.
You got the sort of Eastern European old, Soviet Union kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But you also got the Asian side going, and one of the most beautiful girls I've seen ever was a girl I met in London, and she was from Kazakhstan.
Right.
And Kazakhstani women have that blend of sort of old Soviet.
Everybody just went to Borat right now. Like 1,000 people just... First of all, as if there's 1,000 people listening to this show. Exactly. Just a bunch of them just went to, like, I want to meet my sister. She have vagina like wizard sleep. No.
But yeah, seriously.
Real Kazakhstanis, yeah.
Seriously, like, she was beautiful. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And, from that day I was convinced. I don't remember.
Liliana. No, something.
She probably has a Russian name, though.
Probably.
I don't remember her name.
But speaking of that weird area,
she was Russian.
Was she?
Sorry, she was Russian. I'm sorry.
No, but you might be right because.
But they were ex-Soviet Union anyway.
Yeah,
so.
Most of them speak Russian.
She from her mom's side or from her dad's side, she had like Kazakhstani genes.
So she was half.
Right.
Yeah.
She's a halfie. Okay. Right. Well, I was gonna say something about those Urals, like the Aryans that are living in that region, those blonde-haired, blue-eyed guys. You know what the legend is behind that? Like, if you ask those people in those areas, a lot of the villages, now they say it's bullshit because they did the genetic lineage test for it, but they say these blonde people lived there because that was the leftovers of the Alexander the Great's march through Asia. So that he conquered all the way through to Iraq and then coming down into the Southeast Asia.
And to India as well.
And to India.
I heard stories of that. There was an interesting...
These guys just fucked all along their way.
Yeah, like just fucked his way through.
Left babies
There was an interesting similar story, but from the other side. It was the great... No, it wasn't Genghis Khan. It was, what's the name of he was a famous Arabic writer. His name is, Abbas Muhammad al-Aql. He's very known for, he's basically like, he's in the same era of Taha Hussein. And he was very known for writing these, he writes a lot in Arabic history, but he's very known for being very controversial in terms of the kind of content he would hypothesize. Right. And he mentioned an interesting story, and I'd love to someone make a movie out of this man one day, I swear to God. It's almost like an alternate history where he was saying, I don't know what kind of history books he came across this, but he said that there have been stories floating around about the Arabs going to the Americas before Columbus.
Yeah.
And there was a story about some Arab explorer who had written something somewhere along the lines of, and they landed into this land, and there were these not America. It was somewhere in Europe, and it was like
cold Florida.
It's like they landed there, and there was a bunch of blonde people. They've never seen blondes in their lives.
Vikings.
Yeah, I think that might have
I've
been
heard
it.
this before. Yeah,
And it's such a weird, interesting story. And I wonder,
did you know that like a lot of Viking technologies is because of it was really actually advanced. If you look into some of the swords they were making, I can't remember what the name of the type of sword is, but it was essentially Damascus steel, and it was because there was an ancient trade route from Persia to the northern lands where Norway is and everything else, and these people would like traders from Persia and other places like Iraq would go up the rivers towards
very possible.
They explored themes in Vikings, the show, where they went to, they reached, I think it was Morocco or Algeria or something.
That's right.
They explored themes like that.
Man, the ancient world was a lot more connected than people think.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more.
I mean, social media in 600 BC, or was it 600 BC? I don't even know.
He just came up with a number.
But yeah, coming back to genetics, there was a statistic published like a couple of years back that like 10% of the world's population is related to Genghis Khan.
Yeah, that's true. 1 out of 4, I think. 1 out of 4. He his way into history.
If you really think about it, like the further you go down in history, the more connected it is.
Yeah.
Especially when you look into like the origin of civilization, where it was
Africa.
like North Africa or something like that.
You guys really need to listen to Dan Carlin's podcast. He talks about like a lot of these historical moments in a very interesting, like kind of dramatic, beautiful way. And he's an amateur historian, but he really does his research.
What's his name? Dan Carlin?
Dan Carlin. His podcast is Hardcore History. Really good podcast. Let me just get back to you because it goes to this Genghis Khan thing you're saying. And they're saying the amount, he has this whole series. He does a lot of them, like Roman Empire, Greek stuff. But the one he does in Genghis Khan, there's a bit he talks about how much of an impact he had on the world, that today scientists like that date back to that, they can see the geological record, that the amount of savage killing he did in that time, it actually decreased the global like footprint of humanity on the world. Like that's measurable in the oxygen intake in the freaking soil. Can you imagine that? This is the amount of freaking like destruction this person has caused to the population decreased enough.
How do they measure that though?
It's like nitrogen in the soil and different sediments and stuff like that. When they dig into ice cores in the Antarctic, they can see levels.
Okay.
And people disregard Genghis Khan as like the biggest promoter of genocide in the world. Like you see these statistics like, Hitler killed 16 million people, Mao killed like 75 million, and Stalin. I don't see Genghis Khan there.
No, but
I think because he was a very much older.
Yeah. When killing each other was just a way of life.
Yeah, because back then everybody killed everybody.
Yeah. Listen to this podcast because he says he opens up with that. His biggest thing is he starts off saying how it's interesting that in history, if you wait long enough, right, even the Nazis at some point will be talked about as if they're this neutral figure of history, that people will find ways to say, well, they were beneficial for space travel. They'll find some angle given long enough time. And that's what sorry, I was going to finish off this one.
Go ahead.
That's what he was talking about with the Chinese, because the Chinese, for the longest period of time, in their history books, they always talked about Genghis as this like destroyer of China and this person that like ravaged the country and everything else. And now in Chinese history books, he's taught as this person that opened up China and brought in different cultures and trade and stuff like that. And sorry, I keep cutting you off.
With the Nazis, a lot of people don't know, but Nazis have contributed a lot to aviation. They were, I believe, the first people to envision a flying wing type of aircraft, which the Americans, developed.
Why are you bobbing your head?
I don't know.
Like you want to show off that, you know what? Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
What are you, gay? Something?
You guys can't see him right now. He was just like giving me the head shake. Like, we did. The Nazis did this. Did you know?
Elitist knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. People get carried away, especially when a significant figure commits those types of crimes. When they would disregard the bigger. I'm not saying
I know. I'm letting you go here.
I'm not saying that you should sympathize with Hitler or Genghis Khan or anything, but you should look at history in the sense of these are the outcomes of this is what had happened after that.
Yeah, the duality of the whole situation.
Well, at some point after a couple of generations, it just becomes facts. It's not. There's no emotional attachment to the subject anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's all it is.
You know, and we with Arabs, we always go back to you guys. We sort of invented algebra and all these advances in medicine and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like right now to the international community, we're not really. I mean, it's better now. I mean, we're not looked at as big innovators to this day. I mean, we're talking about now.
Yeah.
But back then,
you mean like stuff like Nobel Prizes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, ancient history where you had like people like I don't know, Ibn Sina, and
Abbas Mufarnas.
Yeah, those guys that sort of really contributed to sciences and medicine. So a lot of people go back to that. When they're talking about Arabs and whatever, which I really appreciate because, I mean, sure, right now we're not seen as, like I said, innovators and whatever, but we contributed to a lot of things.
We did. I think it was just because there's a lot of people that might disagree with this, and I'm not a historian. I'm not somebody that knows this by accurate means in any way. But one of the interesting things that one of these historians was talking about, a guy called Neil Ferguson, he was talking about why there was a period where like science and discovery exploded in the Arab world and in the Islamic empires, and the reason is because we were very multicultural and we allowed a lot of people from outside to come in,
and comparatively very open-minded.
Very open-minded,
like ridiculous, like you wouldn't imagine.
The Age of Enlightenment, I think it was called.
Oh, the Golden Age of Islam, the Age of Enlightenment, whatever, right? So you had that period. It's a specific period of time, and this is the one we talk about, where you don't talk about how it faded out. And one of the reasons it faded out was because if you open up and you're the Silicon Valley of ideas, you're also getting in dangerous ideas, right? So you're not always going to get like the best. Like you're going to get some ideas that are useful and some ideas that are not. So you have to be okay with all of them.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And there was a specific time in Baghdad where mathematicians were they were becoming apostates, or at the time they didn't call them murtaddin, they called them non-believers or doubters. Yeah. That was the word, doubters. Okay. And they noticed a trend where it was only the mathematicians that were going into the weird maths, like the high complex maths, and they started noticing a trend where they were not really becoming faithful, and they worried
because at a certain point it gets too philosophical, where it's kind of like, and they're sort of playing around with ideas of how to combine religion and that, and it's very interesting. And Ibn Sina does that a lot in his writing. Yeah, especially being like a pioneer of medicine as well. And he just goes back and forth. He puts philosophy and medicine, and it's just so interesting how he does
It's weird, man, because you have these periods where even if you look at Abbas Mufarnas, he was going to discover flight.
Yeah.
Like he tried it, he f***ed up, and then people were like, "No, you f***ed up, you can't do it." And it's like such Arab, It's like that, like Ahmed Sharif thing.
I love that, man. You should do that bit. That is such a good bit, man.
I was thinking about it. I was like, I could see the people as he's trying to fucking fly, and they're like, what the fuck?
That is so funny. That is so funny.
He tried it once. He failed. He broke his leg or something, and never tried. That was it. Yeah. But he could have been, the Da Vinci that kept going and made some really good assertions about it, and I'm sure that knowledge transferred somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, if he hadn't done that, someone else would have.
But Khalid, I mean, that's the thing. I don't believe it goes back to the culture that you live in. It goes back to your persistence as a person.
In what sense?
But the culture, living in a culture and living in that kind of environment does help. Yeah. It generates. It's sort of a. It's a place that generates ideas, and the more open you are, the more more space you have.
It's like computational power, man. It's like the more ideas that are diverse, the more things kind of get crunched to the numbers faster.
Yeah, but I mean, with Abbas bin Farnas, I don't know. Did he live in the golden age of Islam? Was he?
I actually don't know the exact date. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's around that time period where things started getting more constrained. Yeah, not in that they were outlawing stuff, but it was starting to, there's less and less risk. Okay. Okay. Like there was even later in the Ottoman period, there was a time where they banned the printing press.
Yeah.
Right? That one analysis that this historian talks about really pinpoints the moment where we get f***ed over.
Yeah.
And it's because we were worried about the printing press and the way it... Because, calligraphy and like handwriting was very sacred to us.
Yeah.
And compared to like the Westerners, like calligraphy and writing by hand was an art form. It was like a specialized job,
For Westerners, it's just an excuse to get a tattoo.
A tattoo that doesn't make any sense.
Sorry.
Yeah. So you can imagine like some guy's training his kid for years, like 30 years to train this kid up to actually do the bot and taught like correctly.
Yeah.
And then there's some dick European just creates a machine.
Copies.
Exactly.
So you'd be protective, right? And at the same thing, they also used bad the idea that they were saying in the haram, you can't print the Quran that way because it was disrespectful.
Yeah.
Because it was like slamming, the pages and everything. So it was like, you're not going to use that. So we opted out, or the whole region under the Ottoman rule opted out of using the printing press. It was outlawed. Okay. And that us over because it was kind of like the internet at the time.
Yeah.
People in Europe were distributing books and they were like, oh, look, you have built a books on this kind of math. Now we can share it to Germany within seconds.
Imagine the kind of things that would have been backed up. The amount of... I can't imagine the amount of material that has been destroyed or just lost.
Yeah.
See, but that's the problem. I mean, okay, fine. You don't want to use you don't want to print the Quran on the printing press. That's fine.
Yeah.
What about other books?
Well, but that's the thing. The printing press made it like it used to be. You couldn't like books were kind of like movies are here or content kind of is here. It used to be controlled because only a limited amount of people had access to them. Like if you look at Europe, right? Nobody had the Bible. You had to go to the freaking priest to get to read the Bible, even if he couldn't read it because it was in Latin. Yeah. He would read it. He would know Latin. You wouldn't have access to it. But if you could print it in the King's English and you make the King James Bible, whatever it is, and now everybody has access to it.
Yeah.
So the same thing goes with knowledge. Knowledge becomes widespread, and you can't control what's being said. Some poetry that you don't like, some political commentary, some philosophy you don't like. And that was scary to some people. So,
and back then they didn't have as much, the internet wasn't around.
Exactly. But it's kind of like...
They could censor easily.
Although it was very interesting how much... trading of thought there was, especially how Arab philosophers used to take from Greek philosophy.
Yeah.
Like that's very interesting. Like how that kind of moved all the way from Greece to the Middle East.
It's the case with geometry, I think.
A lot of it, man.
Yeah.
Like we were the ones that kept like when Europe was going into their crazy phase. Like freaking fall of like the Roman Empire and all that. War. Yeah. So Roman Empire goes down and like all these Greek philosophies and all this the burning of Alexandria and all that other stuff. All the knowledge that was kept was here. We were like, hey, no, we're keeping this safe. You guys go yourselves over.
Alexander the Great had a library in Alexandria, right?
Yeah.
Was it burnt down or was it lost?
I think it was burnt down.
Burnt down.
Yeah. But that was much after him. Like it wasn't him. It was the Ptolemies after. Remember one of his generals, Ptolemy? He became the rulers of Egypt.
Do you know how he became...
With the P, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how he became the ruler after Alexander? No. I read this story, so it was very interesting. Apparently, when Alexander was on his deathbed, it was Ptolemy and some other dude, I can't remember his name, and they were asking him who's supposed to be ruling next after him, like how do we do this, like what's gonna happen now? And he says something very vague. He says to them,
third world problem,
to the strongest, like literally he just says to the strongest, or it's just something of that sort. Yeah. And the way that they solve that is that they race on a horse from somewhere. And I don't remember where he was at this time, but I think they raced somewhere around Persia or something.
What, like all throughout Persia? They just...
It's throughout a certain area, and Ptolemy won, and then that's how he...
No way.
Yeah.
I want to look this up.
Only the fittest of the fittest shall survive.
Is that the quote?
Huh?
Is that the quote? Or are you singing something?
No, it's Bob Marley.
Oh, I don't know Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
Some people just went crazy on it. Some person just downloaded.
But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stories about how I can't imagine how much content like the amount of content that could have been just kept.
I know
with all these libraries. There's so many stories about libraries burning down
because
like
it's a conspiracy, man.
It is, man, because they find out that today, like the freaking Chinese had discovered way before other people anyway, and the white people are just going, no, we had we had printing press for 1,000 years before you, you know.
Exactly.
I keep saying,
of course we have that.
Even with tea.
What do you mean?
You know, with tea, like the Chinese were the first people to make tea.
Yeah.
But now tea is like attributed to like, you know, India and whatever.
Is it?
Yeah.
I always thought it was China.
No, like a lot of people don't know that, you know, tea originated in China.
Huh.
Not a lot of people think it's from India or whatever.
Yeah. Well, the same thing with coffee as well. Was it the first time was I think came out of Ethiopia or something.
Do you know what's really weird? Look, if you look at ancient history compared to today, the Arabs have always been the middle traders.
Yeah.
Like we've all
well, I mean, it's geographically strategic,
but it's not just that. It's like, you know how like now we have the oil supply, and that's how we kind of make our footprint in the world, right? Do you know that during the Roman Empire, the Arabs, like in Nabatean, the ones that were living in like the Jordanian regions and somewhere in the Hijaz, the western parts of Saudi Arabia, right? They had tons of money, man. They were like these ancient Bedouins that were making tons of money because they were selling frankincense and like other bukhur.
Yeah.
They were selling it to the Romans because of their temples and and they controlled that economy, man. The Romans got pissed off because these guys were like controlling the world's money back then when like they had like crazy temples built in their names, and to this day you can see it in Jordan and other stuff, like all of them pimped out houses.
Yeah.
Everybody has like different sigils and stuff. And this was a whole country, a whole kingdom, that relied completely on that economy. Yeah, on the frankincense trade, man.
What is frankincense?
It's bukhur, yeah. It's a type of it. It's an incense, I guess. I'm sure.
Nothing beats the smell of bukhur.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's very iconic here.
It is.
It is.
It's synonymous with like Arabs.
Yeah, it just purifies. I feel.
It's a funny thing though, but if you make someone else other than an Arab smell, they're like, "Oh, what is that weird smell?"
You know,
no. They're like,
really?
No, they're gonna go like Namaste.
Yeah, that's the ones.
They're just being nice.
No, they're ones, man, that just they
really.
Get, oh my god, some of these white women I see, especially the ones in Oman, man, they're like, oh man, I feel spiritually cleansed, and they're like inhaling it. It's like, we don't inhale it. Stop inhaling it.
You're gonna die.
Come around to my house every morning. You know, we got that. We got that for you. You want to feel
that
spiritual?
frankincense for you.
But seriously, some I don't know. Let's say strains of oud.
Yeah,
they go for really, really expensive prices.
What's oud in English? Is it musk? That's misk.
Don't they call it oud?
I think they call it oud.
Incense.
No.
I don't know.
No. That's the bukhur. Yeah. But yeah, so it's a type of like fragrance. Let's just call it that, right? So,
it's like an oil.
It's an oil, a fragrant oil.
Very Arabic, very strong.
Very so they have it in all kinds of places, like Gucci oud and like all this other stuff.
Yeah,
you know, leave it up to Arabs to Arabs to put Gucci on everything.
Abdul Samad al-Qurashi. I wish I could translate that, but it's an Arabic. It's a very famous brand.
A very famous brand in the Middle East, and they're like the empire. They're actually the people that they do the fragrance for Mecca. Kaaba and everything else. Yeah. They're the ones that purify like with the smell and everything else. So they have a monopoly on that. But yeah, you were saying, Arud, what about it?
What was I saying about it?
I have no idea.
He was trying to seduce a white woman.
I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying they're so expensive. Like some brands of oud. They can go for really, and even Arabic perfumes. Like there's a perfume that's called Atar al-Sheikh.
Okay.
Yeah,
and that goes like for like 100 dinars per bottle or something like that. And I'm just
here's the funny thing about that. Like, how much would you spend on a perfume? Like, what's the most you can get out of a perfume other than the fact that it's just gonna last? The smell is just gonna last for a while.
I don't know, man. I take a shower.
What? Yeah. No, seriously. Like, what is like with other things? The more you pay, the more kind of stuff you're gonna get out of that thing. Yeah. A perfume is a perfume. Like the most you're gonna get out of it is it's just gonna last for 48 hours, and that's
there's that. But there's also people that just like to smell it everywhere. Like you know them when they walk into the cinemas.
Oh my dude,
you know the type. You can smell them a mile away.
I can already picture.
They take showers, man.
Picture them in my head.
Like
man.
oh my god, like you'd walk into like I hate like there's this specific brand of perfumes that a lot of, Ghatro type of guys wear, and it's kind of flowery and sweet, but it's kind of woody at the same time, and the smell just makes me go crazy.
You can taste
it. Crazy, not in a good way. I hate it. And you smell it everywhere.
It gets right into it literally gets into your head.
Like 3 miles away, a dog is dying.
And I'm just like,
crying.
dude, for God's sake, man, change your perfume. Like, really?
And I was just
like,
less
you can afford,
of it, man.
you can afford that Ferrari. Please buy a new perfume, for God's sake.
But they like it. It distinguishes them because it also catches the eye, right? But in the wrong kind of way.
It bleeds the eye.
I don't know, man. Do women like it when a guy smells flowery and whatever?
Some women do like it. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Yeah.
A lot of I was having a discussion with my friend about this. My friend in the UAE. Shout out to Hamad Ayman. Okay. We're having a discussion about perfumes, and he told me that apparently a lot of girls like sweet smelling perfumes.
Oh.
Yeah,
like fruity types.
Yeah,
like Fruit Loops.
I hate that. I fucking despise fruity smelling perfumes.
Why? Why do you hate so much, Metro? Come on, tell us.
I don't know, man.
What's the reason? Did somebody molest you while you had that smell on? Is that what's happened? Did somebody use that against you?
It was a long time ago, Khalid.
It was Omani Hodo.
I was just gonna say that, Joe. He took you to his car and it smelled like that.
What a callback. No, like seriously, man. It just. I don't know. It annoys me, and I know this. The whole perfume shtick is subjective, but
it's a very Arabic thing. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have noticed that when you travel abroad. I haven't seen any other region in the world that likes to smell. So
nobody,
much.
Not a single.
It almost gives you an impression that they're masking.
It's like you know how like black communities like chains and like gold. And that. For us, it's the perfume.
It's the perfume,
and you're in the presence of an Arab. It's like detecting. It's like detecting somebody
Arab
in the force.
detective.
Like
there's a disturbance in the area.
Like one time I was in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, and there's a oud shop.
Yeah.
And, the whole day they're just pumping out oud, to attract people. And once you smell it, you just sort of get these flashes of, like, being back home and smelling oud and whatever. It's such an identifying factor.
Yeah.
The
smell of oud. And, I don't know,
do you sometimes like it? I sometimes kind of like it.
I like it. Like
it makes me feel nostalgic.
If it's gentle and non-intrusive,
definitely
doesn't have that rapey vibe to it, then you're okay.
See, I don't have a problem with oud. I have a problem with sweet, fruity smelling perfumes.
Yeah.
That's what I have a problem with.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
So if you wear sweet. Smelly. I don't know where I was going with this.
Fruity.
I don't know.
I think you were going to lose us some perfume sponsorships at some point down the line. All right, I think we're over hour 13 or something. So, you guys got anything to plug?
I think we just leave it off at perfumes. Yeah,
right? Leave it on perfumes.
Yeah,
I'm good.
All right. Okay, guys, thank you for listening in. As always, please share, like, and subscribe. Let people know, and then tell us and give us all the feedback and comments.
Please.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next episode.